welcome to Stride Made Podcast. I'm Amy Carlin, your host, founder of Stride Made and Carlin & Co. I want to talk about university today. I personally went to university and I was at uni for 4 years, and I feel like I have a lot of opinions about my university experience and education in that tertiary sense. And that's where we're going to go with it. So I graduated from high school in 2013. I actually really enjoyed high school. I was really actually kind of good at school, but my short-term memory was like what got me through, not my long-term. So I would write a syllabus down and remember it by how many dot points and what those dot points started with letter-wise, and write out textbooks word for word so I could try and memorize something before the exam. So there was a lot of writing involved. I didn't really use a laptop back then anyways. We didn't really have those for much school stuff. Anyways, long story short, I decided to go to university because I was like, I like studying and everyone else was going, but I had never really thought about what I wanted to do in my life. And I think that's because having a disability and you're growing up and you're just focusing on the one thing, I hadn't really thought about that far ahead, because I don't think I always knew what I'd be able to do and what that looked like. And I guess at the time, during school and high school, I was one of the only people with a camera, because you didn't really have phones that had good cameras on them. And I just always kind of did it. So I got to the point where I was like, well, maybe that's the option. I had a couple of people, friends were looking at, so I lived in Bowral, and then they were looking at either you'd go to Sydney or Wollongong, and then a couple of people were looking at Wagga, and they didn't end up choosing that place in the end, but I saw that they had a Bachelor of Creative Arts and Design, and then you could specialise. So you major in photography or graphic design or animation, so on and so forth. And a lot of people could do a double degree as well of photography and graphic design, but my design abilities are non-existent. So I definitely, in my first year, I did an elective for graphic design and quickly realized I'm incapable of that skill set. It's not for me. Anyways, so I got early entry into uni and I headed off. I lived on campus, which I think I've mentioned before on a previous podcast. I somehow moved onto campus, which was I hated it at first. I think my dad came and picked me up halfway through a week for a bit and then dropped me back at some point as well. I would go home every weekend. I just was not a social little butterfly like I thought I was. When you have 18 people in your year 12 that you've known and gone up through primary school and high school together, it was a little bit overwhelming. And I went to a Christian school as well, which my family, my parents and my sister aren't religious as such. And it just was really good for accessibility. And I think I was not sheltered by my parents, but sheltered by my school and some of my friends and their families. Because it was a whole new world, whole new experience. I was personally chose to be Christian until I think I was about 20, which was the end of my first year on campus. But I soon was not for being religious, because every new church I would go to, people would be oh, God can fix your legs. And I'm but what if this is my fixed? But no one wanted to accept that. So for me, I was no, thank you. So I was just really innocent and sheltered from the world. So that's a whole aspect of going to university, is where I lived and getting out of that comfort zone as well. And I can already flat out say that was the most beneficial part of going to university at all for me. But when it came to study, in my gap year, I had a gap year in 2014, and I did an online course through a design college. I think it might have been CATC or something. I can't remember what it was. And that was really helpful. It had so much technical information, insane amount of technical information. And it was all just online, things you could print out, and pages and pages of information about how camera works and what settings create what images. And I got more out of that 6-month course that was kind of self-paced than I did 4 years at university. once I got to university, even the technical classes initially that kind of taught you how to use like a camera basically were like how to turn it on at one stage. And I just, for higher education for me, that was taking a step back. I really wanted to go into something that like moved a bit faster pace, because you all have to start somewhere, but it just was so slow. And you would do basically like an art history kind of subject, some sort of communication subject, an elective, and then your major. So you're doing like sometimes only one photography class a session or something like that, and it just like wasn't enough for me. So that component I didn't really get much out of the whole photography aspect. Like we did a bit of analog photography, and our degree was more about exhibiting and rationales and being an exhibiting artist in a gallery. And for me, I just always struggled to put meaning to my work beyond its literal sense, and not because I just couldn't think creatively, but because my thought process around what I would capture just it meant what it meant. I didn't want to make up something for it. And I basically only really shot nature photography throughout my like late teens, and in my university degree, most of it, apart from the ones that we had to include people or be in the studio, it was all nature. And I loved landscapes, macro photography, insects, you name it, loved it. And so for me, when I would capture a moment, it would just be like how that split second happened, how beautiful that flower looked, or that sunset at that moment. Like no one will get that back. I loved working with colors and blurring in the foreground, and colors were like my big thing. I loved like always having color stories through images as well. So they hated my work. They hated my work, and they hated that I didn't like to fluff and make bullshit out of something that wasn't more than what it was, other than something I just appreciated when I looked at. It got to the point that for my final graduation project, throughout all of university, I still, the first 3 years, kind of did what they said, tried to get really good marks, and I enjoyed the art history component and thought that was very interesting. I changed from graphic design elective to doing advertising elective. So I did 3 of those or something like that, 3 or 4, and soon realized I didn't like advertising. I'm not the ideas person. I can execute, but I don't come up with all of the ideas. In our graduate kind of photography class, we had to make a portfolio, and then we would exhibit a few at our final graduation gallery event at the local gallery. And I decided, you know what? I've kind of played along this whole time doing what they want, but they're always kind of like, I don't know, I don't really get it. And they didn't really see my vision of going into commercial as well, and because Instagram had only really started popping off a bit more at the start of university. And they didn't really understand why I would draw inspiration from other photographers from different parts of the world that were just wedding photographers, family photographers, not, someone from art history from years ago. They didn't like the relevance of new people on the scene who might not be published by name in some book. And I didn't understand that, because that's where I drew inspiration from. Hey, I saw they did this really cool thing, so I wanted to see how I could incorporate that in my work. And they were like, yeah, but that's no like Angel Adams. Like, I'm like, okay, well, whatever. So for my graduate project in the end, I just like bullshitted shit. I just bullshitted my way out of it, honestly, so I could try and get a really good mark. And it worked, because I used my disability as like the rationale. They were kind of always scared of my disability, which can happen sometimes, but I used my disability as the concept of this portfolio of garden images and flowers and all of that stuff, which then like looked great on the wall. And then it got selected the following year, I think, to be in some of the top graduate photos in a gallery exhibition that they had the following year. And all because I made it about my disability and did all this fluff and how meaningful it was, when really I just like had taken them over the 12 months and thought they looked pretty. But they all of a sudden were like, we understand you now. And I'm like, too little, too late. Like, it was an interesting thing to study something compared to, so half my degree being so creative and subjective versus like actual history and objective and facts, and having the comparison made me really hate the photography component, because my whole degree and my whole worth of my art was subjectively being decided by the lecturer who's lectured there for 20 years, alongside the other lecturer who's also lectured there for a very long time. And so my marks were determined just by what they thought, which I'm like, that's not how art works. It's not how art works, in my opinion, especially when you're learning. Like, I'm not there to be, it baffles me when you look at it. I'm like, why am I going to university to have my art judged subjectively, instead of actually going somewhere and being taught skills and know how to execute that type of image and not have to worry about making it mean something more. And yeah, so I kind of like feel like my photography stuff was pretty much a waste of time, but I loved the art history, and the advertising stuff did help with consumer-based stuff. And then, so that's why I did a post-grad study, a certificate in marketing, I think. So it was only 12 months. It almost cost as much as my freaking 3-year degree, though. That was ridiculous. But I loved it. I thought it was really good. It really helped me understand business a bit more, and how to run a business, and how to talk to customers, reach customers. And I didn't find it the easiest thing in the world, but like I was pretty impressed with myself, and it was all online as well. I was lucky. Earlier I said I was bad at tests, and I didn't have to do any exams. I don't know how I lucked out. I even had someone from the university when I was applying for something. They're like, oh my goodness, you're so lucky. There's no exams. I'm like, how have I gotten through 4 years of university with no exams? I don't know, but someone was on my side at that point in time. So the marketing certificate, those 12 months were probably the best regarding my study, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. And I feel like that's what I was able to apply quite easily to what I do now. I also actually got a job from studying that while I was still studying it. So I ended up working in the Office of Vice Chancellor for my university as like a social media officer, so assisting with running their social media for current students. And all because I kind of had a bit of that under my belt, and I was finishing it off the last like 4 months of that year. They were like, yeah, sure. Like, it gave enough backing and qualification to be like, I kind of know what I'm doing enough to try a job like this. And long story short, I stayed there for 6 months and I was like, bye, because hated it. Hated it. But that's okay. It was a really great experience, and I've taken a lot from that with me. But in general, I do feel that my university journey for me, if anything, was more about the mindset of interacting in life with people. But then like, because we got up to some crazy things at university, like it was so fun living on campus. I think if I didn't, I would have struggled. But you'd go out and party every other night. And I'm not like, I wasn't known for being the partier, but it was just fun. And you do funny uni nights, and back to school, you'd have some really cool artists play at the uni bar. You'd all walk over the hill and go out for the night, or go into town. And I was always deso a lot, though, I will say. Like, I did drive people a lot, because in Wagga you can't like just walk over this bridge. You have to go a really long way around into town if you want to walk. So yeah, like I just enjoyed that component of university a lot. And the only thing I would say though is I don't like when people assume that because of what I do, I don't have a degree, because I did work hard. and I have paid off my HEX debt and a lot of money. And so there's a lot of value in it still, that effort, that commitment, and particularly with art history and the stuff I did study there as well. Like, there's so much knowledge within it, and I've experienced a lot through those courses, whether I agreed with how they evaluated our work or not. It kind of pushed me in a path of knowing kind of what I wanted to do. So during university as well, I would shoot all the uni balls. So I was always at because you'd have a ball per kind of residential area. But then also the vets would have a ball. So I would shoot that. I was shooting families. I was doing all the actor degrees headshots. Like they would come to me outside the degree to do so for their portfolios. So I was doing that as well. I was shooting other local events and just trying to build that component of working with people in a different way rather than shooting nature and exhibiting anything, and how I could make money off that. And at the time I followed a lot of American photographers and on Instagram, so I was following the trends and the film like presets and all of that stuff of those in America. And also that's where my dog's name came from. So there was this really, really popular like preset stuff, and one of their packages was called Huxley, and I was like, oh my goodness. So for my last year, my marketing certificate, I lived off campus, and as soon as I moved off campus, the end of my third year, I got Huxley, because we always had animals growing up. Like we had 10 pet dogs at a time, like love animals, and I've just really struggled without having a dog live with me for 3 years. So I got Huxley straight away. So I really wanted to expand on that family photography and build that. And I really actually enjoyed it as well. Like I was really, really good at it. I look back at all my family photography and think, wow, like I've captured some great moments, and there's so many sad moments too where people have come back because people have passed away, or even now I still, from particularly those galleries that people would still have access to, I get notifications of certain things being downloaded. And sometimes I wonder what they are, or I look at what the image is, and you kind of gather based on the person's age in the photo that they might no longer be here anymore. And it's a fascinating thing to be such a part of someone else's life through providing them an image like that. We're in the commercial sense now, like people use it and then it's gone. Like no one cares about it anymore. Kind of felt like in the end events were a bit of a waste of my time, and I've slowly been dropping them off the last 7 years, particularly the last 2 years, because I would stand in a room and I feel like people weren't acknowledging my capabilities and my skill set, which I'm not dissing anyone that does event photography or anything like that. There's so much skill in that. For me, I do a large range of photography. I work with a very large range of industries, and my skill set, I have skills across so many areas, and people would just clump me as that's all I do. For me, I'm so like, I'd work so hard to be skilled in other areas and be recognized for that skill in those areas that it would kind of make me feel not good about myself, that people would just assume like, oh, you just take a photo. And at events, you get that flippant nature of people where they don't really respect what you do. Like, of course, an event photographer has so much more skill than what these people make them out to be. And I just couldn't deal with it anymore. And I tell you what, if one more person asks me when I tell them I'm a photographer, if I'm a wedding photographer, I'm going to lose my head. I'm going to lose my head. I'm like, you look at pictures every day. Where do you think they come from? And before anyone talks about AI needs pictures to begin with half the time. So yeah, it just got to a point where I didn't want to work after hours. I didn't want to feel disrespected for kind of what I do, or assuming what I do as well and grouping me into something I'm not. And that's where I was like, oh, maybe it's just because I just don't identify as that being my job anymore. Like when you get a promotion or you do something else, you're just like, oh, yeah, like I guess I don't do that anymore, or like that's not something I need to do, and learning what you actually enjoy doing and how you wanted to interact with people. So for me, it was like a gradual transition, and I have obviously limited energy in ways with my health issues that I found I'd be working long hours and like nothing really coming of it. And there's only so much you can charge for certain types of events. There are industry standards at some point for your baseline kind of events. And I just couldn't do it anymore. So I think I've shot one of my last events recently. I don't mind conferences. Some conferences are really good. I don't mind those at all. I find them quite productive and I get to learn a lot while I'm at them. But otherwise, it's something I've kind of transitioned out of. And I transitioned out of family photography because I just got to the point where I didn't want to always have people questioning my financial value in that sense as well. I found, one, it's a very saturated market, but two, the value wasn't there for me either. I don't think people respected my time and what my time would cost as much, just based on my experience over time. I really appreciated the strong value that commercial clients give you, and respect. And if someone trust me, there is some questionable commercial clients out there in the world, respectfully. If anyone asks for like one photo, they just want 1 or 2 photos, run. They want a mini session with 1 or 2 photos, run. Like, no, that's not how it works. It's not how it works. And because someone will charge them way less for that, but I charge actually for my time and for my skill and ability, which is very important. So I just kind of fell into a range of industries in the commercial world and realized that's where I felt my worth. That's where I felt respected for what I do as well. And I'm not disregarding the amazing clients I have had over the years. And sometimes it's more the interactions with those that don't become your clients that really wear you down just as much. Have loved learning about so many different industries and being able to have flexible skill set to apply that to every client as well. And I learn along the way, I learn on the go, which is a little stressful sometimes, but if you have a base to work off, you really can achieve a lot and capture a lot. And I'm constantly learning, and I learned how to be a videographer on the go. A couple of years ago, my sister was teaching me how to use editing software because she went to film school, and I was learning to do it while doing it. At the time, I charged appropriately for that sense as well, and we just had to move with the times, and I just had to become a videographer, and I never in my life thought I would do that. I definitely love photography. If I think about video, I really, really, really enjoy interviews and interviewing people and audio-based work the most. I find it very engaging and interesting. And other video, great, good at it too. But I just love that engagement factor. I just have made the leap recently, I guess, in transitioning fully to that commercial aspect and not doing events. And over time, it took years, like realistically, to do so. Had to figure it out along the way. It's all stemmed from university and thinking about like what I was doing and shooting outside of the classroom, and then shooting nature because I loved it so much. Like, can I be an exhibiting artist? And that's when I was like, no, I can't. So then I moved to Geelong to try and find more commercial work. It all evolved from a natural process of, I don't know what I want to do in my life. Has anyone else been there? I feel like I'm there every year. What do I want to do with my life? Which is fine. I think it's important that each day and each year, each month, you evaluate who you are, who you want to be, and where you currently are at and how you can get there. So I had this natural transition, honestly. I don't think I've ever forced any aspect. Even when I've been told to do certain things at university or do things a certain way, I've never put that much structure on my skills and what I do and where I want to go. I've let it unfold naturally. And it's been quite interesting though the last, 6 months saying no to things. I find that quite stressful. But that's a whole nother podcast in itself, I think. But yeah, so that's kind of like my background with my education and kind of how I've gotten from university, what my opinion of it is. And then I think I've tangented quite a bit. We've gone off on a different little track here. This was not meant to be the point of the whole podcast. I was meant to be a bit smaller. But I think I'll just combine the two topics together. How about that? I think it's important to know that like you don't have to do something you're not enjoying anymore, and that there's ways to slowly integrate other aspects and other options. It doesn't have to be a hard like, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. Now I'm doing this. Especially when it comes to if you run your own business and that's your only income, it's hard to just switch it up and be like, don't want that anymore, changing it over. And I think gradual transitions are crucial. And I think teaching yourself a lot about your own skill set is very important, so that even when you are in classrooms, or especially as an adult who can make decisions for themselves, when you're in classrooms and someone's giving you opinions on things, you're able, like for example, my photos, you're able to also back yourself. And I think that's quite important as well, that you can have a differing of opinions. Thank you for listening if you've gotten this far, and I'll talk to you next time. Go make some strides.